your teacher, Mr. Larry, or Teacher Larry. And I'm here to share with you as much as we can. So you can always reach me if you have a question. I will be able to respond or put the question on our WhatsApp chat. I can also be able to share. Today's quote, I felt I should say something, that we are defined by our actions, not the words we preach. Most times we are good talkers, but our actions are wanting. So let us make sure we try to be practical in whatever we do. Let us, even when you're given work, don't say I will do. I know that thing. Instead, be able to tell us, be able to practice the work you're given. That's what I'm trying to tell us today. Let us be practical. It is in practice that we're able to be better people. So today, I want us to look at our topic today is this, the active and passive voice. And I want all of us to share. Okay, yes, I've seen the chat. Thank you. I've seen the chat. Teacher, some of us are not in WhatsApp group. All of us, but it's okay. Even if you're not on WhatsApp group, we can still chat on Google Classroom. Like this work is already there. So there is no excuse for not talking to me. I'm everywhere. I'm in your Google Classroom. I have my WhatsApp number. I've just shared it there. And all the other platforms, at least you can be able to reach me. Like you can always have this. So that is just fine. Let us share. What knowledge do you have under active and passive voice? By show of hands. I don't want just feed you with what I know. I also want to know what you know about active and passive voice. Any knowledge you have under active and passive voice, you put up your hand and then you share. Mose. Mose. Mose, you disappeared. Your hand was up. I couldn't. It seems okay, it seems Mose has disappeared. Flavia.
Good morning, teacher.
Good morning, Flavia. How are you today?
I'm okay. According to me, I think active voice are the actual words of the speaker, while passive voice are the words given in reported speech, like they are given by another person.
Okay, there is a close relationship between that, what you call direct and indirect speech. There is a close relationship that can aid us. Thank you. Let us try another person. Apple, though I felt Apple, are you in senior 2 or in senior 1? Because you're giving me things of senior 1. Apple.
Yes. Yes.
You were telling me we looked at crops. Are you sure? This is senior 2. We're in senior 2. I hope you know that.
The mistake.
Oh, yeah, it's a mistake because I noticed you were giving me things of senior 2. Senior 1 rather. Okay, let me take on Mzee is back, yes. Mzee, why can't I cannot, I don't know why I cannot, I can only lower your hand, but I cannot make you speak. I don't know why. I cannot ask you to unmute. Charles Otto, if you're there, help me, Mr. Charles. Help me to unmute Scopus Mose.
Okay.
Scopus Mose, I don't know what your settings are, but we are trying to help you so that you can be able to speak.
He has not yet connected this audio.
Oh, okay, that is the problem. Connect your audio scopers, Mzee, and then you come in. KG. I don't know, KG. KG, what's your real name? KG. KG.
My real name is KG.
Is children. Can you give me a normal
Yes.
name? As in, give me a
In the
botanical
active
name.
voice, the sentence begins with the subject and ends with the object. While in the
That is
passive voice, the sentence begins with the object and ends with the... Yes, teacher.
Yes, I'm listening. You've told us that in the active voice, the sentence
Joseph.
begins with, you're called Joseph, right?
Joseph.
Okay, that is normal now. I did
In
not
the
believe
active
you are
voice,
called.
the sentence, the subject. Yeah.
So you said in the active voice, the sentence begins
In the
with,
active voice,
the sentence begins with the subject and ends with the object. And then in the passive voice, the sentence begins with the object and ends with the subject. Now, what does it mean by subject object? Though he has run away. Joseph, if you come back, you'll explain to us. I want another person's knowledge on what we mean by object and subject. Let me check our chat. Active voice refers to the actual words of the speaker, while the passive are reported. Now, there's a difference between reported speech. However, there's a very big similarity also. However, for me, I'm interested in the structure other than just this. What does it look like? How is it written? That's what I'm interested in seeing. And Joseph has been able to give us a good deal. Winnie Mugabe.
Excuse me, sir. Good morning.
Good morning to you. How are you? Morning, how are you?
So I am asking the question because I've just joined. I'm asking the question that you are on.
My screen is there. I have not changed my screen. The topic today is active voice and passive voice.
But mine, it cannot show.
Are you sure? Is it, but I don't know, is it only you? Are there any other people who cannot see my screen by show of hands? Any other person? Okay. Are you seeing my screen? Fatima, Hannah, let me find out. Hannah, can you see my screen?
No, teacher, I can't see. I only see similar to English. That's all.
Okay. Let me, are you seeing any change right now on the screen?
No.
Okay. Let me.
Teacher Lurry,
Yes.
you go and present again, and then you present the windows that has got the work. I'm just seeing your desktop where, yeah, you just go and present again and you pick the screen with the work. Thank you.
Okay, let me stop sharing because I thought I was sharing the actual one. Okay. You let me know, Teacher Toy, if we are there now.
Yeah, we are there now.
Oh, sorry about that. Me, I thought I was sharing because I think I picked the wrong window. So today we are looking at the okay. Today we are looking at the active and passive voice. I hope now we are okay. You can lower your hands for those who you can lower your hands if you can now see my screen. Winnie Mugabe, can you see me now? Can you see the screen?
Yes, sir.
All right. My apologies. Thank you for the correction.
Welcome.
Okay, so those who are still sharing, Joseph had brought in a very good concept of active voice starting with the subject, and I was interested in finding out what is the subject in a sentence. This is where we get to know that as students we ought to know what a subject verb and object is in a sentence. Now, most of us have issues locating a subject. Now, I want us to explain to ourselves who can be able to tell us what a subject is, what an object is, or who can tell us the parts or parts of a sentence. What does a sentence contain? Those are things I'm interested in. Chosen, Jovia.
Good morning, Master.
Good morning, Tia.
A subject is something that is being discussed of.
The subject is what is being discussed. For example, can you give me a sentence and you tell me the subject in your sentence?
A subject?
Yes, give me a sentence and then you tell us that this is the subject. Give me a sentence and then you locate a subject in your sentence. When people don't know, they just mute and I cannot do anything, but that's okay. Thank you. At least you've given us something. Lillian?
Yes, teacher.
Yes.
A
What is a
subject.
subject? What is a verb? What is an object? Yes.
A verb is a doing word.
Begin with the subject.
Okay. A subject, in my own understanding, a subject is a word which something is on which something is predicated.
For example?
For example,
Okay. Elvis, I think I'd seen Elvis. Elvis is there.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning. How are you?
Sir, according to me, a subject is the person doing the action. Like, for instance, a sentence like Mary is going to school. Mary is the subject. Then when you look at the object is the person or something receiving the action, such as school.
Thank you so much. You've made it very simple for all of us. Now, that's what I expect. Let's not complicate things. That is a very good explanation, Elvis. Thank you so much for sharing. So today, thank you everyone for sharing. I'm now interested in looking at today this our passive and active voice. The difference, first of all, between the two. Someone has already told us, that was Joseph, in terms of the sentence, what they look like. So I also want to add my voice. It is definitely close to what all of you know, the meaning of passive and active voice. And from me here, I said that English has two voices, the active and passive. The active voice is used when the subject of the sentence does the action. That's what Joseph was stating us. It is what Elvis has just told us. So here, my mother sings that song. My mother eventually is the subject because she's the doer of the action. And what action is that? That is singing. Are we together? So, and what is being sung? Definitely that song. So that song becomes the object. Or if it was any other sentence, maybe Peter goes to school. There is the object is there for the school. That's the one receiving the action, you know, the one that Peter goes to. Where does Peter go? That question helps us to obtain the object, the receiver of the action. So that's what we are saying in the active voice. It is the day-to-day speech. It is what we ordinarily use on our day-to-day speech. So that is what we call the active voice. When you mention a statement and you realize that your subject, you know, is performing. In short, at this point in the active voice, we are interested in the subject. The active voice is used when the subject does the action. In short, here we are more interested in the subject. Who sings? Who goes to school? So we are more interested in the subject. That's what it means. So that is what we call the active voice. I know these are just reminding you. You can definitely know. Then the passive voice. The passive voice is used when we focus on the object this time round. That song, remember that song, the other in active was the object. Now here it becomes definitely the subject. That song is sung by my mother. So definitely here now, when we are more interested in the object, we use what we call the passive voice. We use what we call the passive voice. Peter goes to school. This time we are more interested in school. So that's what we are saying. When you're more interested in the object, that sentence definitely takes on what we call passive, or you choose to use what we call the passive voice. Now, in our day-to-day life, things happen, what we call verbs work according to time. You know, we talk about maybe the present tense, we have the present continuous. Now, so we want to look at this passive voice under different tenses. And we shall begin by looking at it in the present tense. Present simple tense. What does it look like? Now, there's a statement I have left here that if it is important to know who does the action, we use by. Now, most times you've seen teachers tell you maybe do not include by, or at this point, this is, but there are times again where they expect you to add by. Now, most times, if we're using a pronoun, for example, they, it, she, we may not need to put by. We may not need to know who did the action. But if you, for example, that girl, so, or I mean, rather, if we mention like Jen goes to school, or maybe Peter eats mangoes. So at this point, you'll say mangoes are eaten by Peter. So if you're interested in knowing who really eats the mangoes, who performs the action, you will have to mention, or you can include that by using the word by. That's why I've put that. But if it's important to know who does the action, we shall use by. That's why you'll say that song is sung by my mother. But if we're not interested in who sings this song, we'll just say that song is sung. So most times when we're interested in the speaker or in the doer of the action, rather, we use by to bring it out clearly. So I want us to now go to the next part, the different segments in terms of tenses. What are the changes? Because the task usually we have is to change active voice to passive voice. But there are rules we follow, and those rules apply under different tenses. For example, we want to look at the present simple tense. Under present simple tense, we have the active voice and the passive voice. A simple sentence like, they sweep the room every day. How do you know that this is a present simple tense? Who can be able to help us with that? Who can be able to tell us? How do you know that that sentence is in the present simple tense? Barack Samuel.
Because of the word every day.
Every day?
Yes,
is it only every day?
They sweep the room every day.
Okay, that is present simple. That is true. What about have you noticed the verb there? Which is the verb?
Sweep.
Which tense is it in?
It is in everyday tense also.
What we call the present simple tense, also known as everyday tense.
Everyday tense.
Yes. So we want to see how does this change in the active voice when we are now interested in the room more than the doer of that action, more than the they. Because here, if you're to determine which is the object in this first sentence. Yes, Barak? Barak?
The room.
Okay, so the room is our object, they is our subject, and sweep is our verb. So we want to see the changes that occur. So when we change it to passive voice, it is the room is swept every day. So you notice here, please, Barak, can you mute?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. If we look at some of the changes, the room is swept every day. So here, swept changes to the past participle. The verb changes to past participle. And definitely here we start with now the object, which was the room. So the formation of the past participle is usually the verb to be plus the past participle. So the verb to be is the is here. So this is what makes the passive voice. When we're interested in the object only, the room is swept every day. Second example, they serve meals in the dining hall. Definitely, when we are to structure that, they is our subject, meals is our object, and serve is our verb. So if we're beginning with the passive, or rather the object, we shall say, meals are served in the dining hall. Still, the formation, verb to be plus served, which is in our past participle. So these are the changes in the present simple tense. That is how we change passive, active to passive in the present tense. Okay, others are still sharing. For example, my laptop has been stolen. Laptop is the object, stolen is the... That is not true, Isabella. Stolen here is an action word. I hope Isabella is seeing that. Action is, stolen is a verb. In that statement, my laptop has been stolen. I see here almost the passive voice in the passive voice, or you're saying in the passive voice, still stolen will not be the subject. Stolen is a verb there. Okay, let us now, I hope we have understood that. That is how we change in the present simple tense. Let us now go to okay, now present continuous. I will explain, then later on we shall share. In the present continuous, what makes this present continuous? Yes, what makes it present continuous? Leila, what makes that statement present continuous?
Because it has ing.
Okay, the ing. That shows what? What does that show?
Continuous tense.
Yes,
Present continuous tense.
The continuity of the action. Are we together? That the action is still ongoing. They are sweeping the room now. So before you go, Leila, which is our subject, which is our object? Leila has run away. Who can determine our subject and our object very fast? Mario? Yes, Mario? Ari has run away. Mugabe,
Yes, Chair.
could you help us determine the subject and the object?
The room is the object
Mhm.
and the subject is sweeping.
Are you sure?
No,
Are you sure?
now let me check again.
Mhm.
The room is the object
That is true.
and they is the, I think, the subject.
Karan?
I think they is the subject. No, it's now.
Now, I was about to say yes, then you jumped. They is the performer of the action. Luke Freeman, I'm not going to allow you to remote control my screen. So please stop sending requests. Thank you so much. They are sweeping the room now. So they is the subject. The room is the object. That's why we are changing it by saying the room is being swept now. Because the room is what we're interested in, and we're not interested in the doer. That's why we don't even have it in our sentence. However, you can see for the present continuous, we are now having the being plus the past participle of the verb in question, which is sweep. So here it will change to swept. So that's what we are saying. Those are the changes we are noticing here. That is in the present continuous. Next statement, they are watching you. They is the subject, watching is the verb. You definitely becomes the object. And that's why we begin by saying you are being watched.
What?
Yes, it is also in the past participle. So that's one thing we notice here, that all the verbs change to the participle form in the passive voice. The only changes that come in is maybe the singular form of the verb to be is. Here we have are, and then in the continuous we have being. Later on we shall see other changes. So that is in the present continuous. You should be able to determine if the sentence is in present continuous or it is in present simple. So that is for present. Let us go to the next tense very fast. That is the past simple tense. What do we have here? Still, we have the active voice, passive voice. How do you know that this sentence is in the past simple tense? Those whose hands are still up. Okay, Jovia is saying, Jovia Pavin, the house is mopped every day. That sentence definitely is in the present simple tense. The house is mopped every, no, you've changed it already to passive voice. Okay, thank you. That is changed already because the object here is now definitely. So if you change this back, they mop the house every day. Then the house is mopped every day. So that sentence is already in the passive voice. Okay, thank you so much. How can you determine that this sentence is in the past tense? Faith, no. Agnes, Nandutu, no, this is not Nandutu. Agnes. Yes, Agnes.
Teacher, I'm Hannah.
You are Hannah, but the name that is on the phone is Agnes. Oh, I've unmuted Hannah Fatina. All right, sorry. I was supposed to have muted someone else, but that's okay still. It's your opportunity.
How to determine that the sentence is in past simple tense? The word was and swept.
Okay. No, now this one is in the passive voice. I'm talking about in the active voice. It is simply the tense here, yes? Swept.
Yes.
Yes.
Swept.
So swept determines the tense of this sentence here. or rather the verbs determine the tense of our sentences here. Are we together? The verb in the active voice determines the tense of the sentence. So the verb here is swept. Our performers are they, that is our subject, and the room becomes the object. So the change is the room was swept. The room was swept. Second sentence, they watched you. Definitely watched shows us that this sentence is in the past tense. You is the object and they is the subject. You were watched. Now, why are we using was here in the first sentence in the passive voice and were in the second, and then again was in the third sentence? Who can be able to tell us that difference? Yes, who can be able to tell us that? Miss Ghana. Some names are really nice. Miss Ghana, how are you, Miss Ghana?
Yes, teacher, I'm fine. What was
that
the
your real
question
name?
again? My real name is Miss Ghana.
The question is here. Why do we have was? Let me use my alternations there. Why do we have was in the first sentence in the passive voice, and then were in the second sentence, and again was in the third sentence?
Okay, the thing is, we have plural and singular verbs. For example, when you say room, it's one room, it's singular. That's why we are using was. But in question 2, we are saying you, like it's telling us that there are many, so that's why it's plural. That's why we are using where. And the third one is yes.
Continue.
And the third one is door. It's only one door. It's singular. That's why we are using was.
All right, thank you. That's exactly. So I wanted us to know that this is just the form of the verb to be. Are we together? Definitely here we are using the past. This is actually what determines the tense in now the second sentence. Are we together? It's no longer the verb. The swept, the watched, that does not determine, because we realize that all verbs in the passive voice are in the participle form. So here the determiner of the tense in the passive voice is the verb to be. I want to take us back to just a minute. I want to take us back here under present continuous. You could be able to see is being. So this is what determines the tense here. Present is, being, continuity. Are, that is the verb to be. It is in present, being continuous. So we do not use the verbs in the present in the passive voice to determine the tense of the sentence. If you do that, you will be mistaken. Why? Because all verbs are in the past participle. All verbs. That is one of the rules we shall learn as we go on. So thank you so much, Miss Ghana, for that. You've been able to explain. So those are the changes in the past simple tense. Definitely. We can now go to past continuous. Past continuous. How do you know that this is in the past continuous? Who can be able to give us the determiner? Hilda. Hilda. Let me see here. Is Hilda running away? Yes, Hilda is still here. Hilda, could you be able to determine for us? Hilda?
Teacher, it's
Yes.
just like the sentence is they were sweeping the broom. Sweeping shows that it was continuously. It was sweeping, it's continuous, showing every day they are being sweeping, and they has a subject, it shows that okay, it's just like pastly, they have been sweeping, they were sweeping. It has just passed, but it is still continuously living.
Hilda, could you hit the nail on the head? I do not understand. Pick for me the word which. Okay, let's first pick the subject and the object. Pick for me the object.
The object is the room.
Subject?
They.
Okay, thank you. Let us pick someone to help you. Oh, Mzee is back. I hope now, yes, Mzee, now you can talk. Mzee. Okay, it seems Mzee's hand is just up naturally. Virunji, come and help us. Me and Hilda, we are lost. Come and help us.
Was sweeping is the one which is showing that it's past in the past continuous.
Virunji, are things good or things are not good? Yes, it is in past continuous. How can you know? How do we know that you are, I'm not lying or you are not lying to us? How do you tell that this sentence is in that form?
It's because of was sweeping. It shows it's in past continuous.
And so here the determiner is wa. Wa gives us your vit. Are we together? So this is the past tense of the verb to be. So wa sweeping. So that's what helps us here to know. When sweeping shows us that sentence is in the past continuous tense. And definitely when we are changing, our room is the object. So this time we're interested in the object. So we shall say the room was being. Now the being here and was help us to determine. Remember, the sentence should remain in the same tense and the sentences should carry the same meanings. That's why you see that the sentence in the passive and the sentence in the active all have the same meaning and they're all in the same tense. Even without the active voice, you could be able to tell that was is past tense and being swept shows continuous tense. Rather, definitely here, the being was being shows past continuous of the action swept. So this is the thing that help us to determine. So I want us to be very keen, especially in determining the tense of a sentence. I have given you aids how you can be able to know that this sentence is in the present simple, present continuous, past simple, past continuous. They were watching you. Where is past watching continuous, past continuous. They were painting. Where past painting continuous. When you change them, this is what you have. You were being watched. The room was being painted. Those are the changes that we realize. I want us to go to the next. Present perfect. Now, this is usually what confuses students. What makes a statement perfect? What do they mean by past perfect? Or what do they mean by present perfect? We shall also be able to determine, maybe someone can be able to try before I exhaust it. The same hands. This time we have Miro, Vincent. Your network.
Yeah. Sentence is said to be present perfect.
Could you look for
in when it indicates.
Oh, his network. Let me take Agnes. I had picked Agnes last time, but I ended up picking someone else. Agnes?
The sentence how to show that it is in present perfect because it shows that the action is just recently done.
What is that thing that, yes, that is true. But what is that thing? Which grammatical rule is there that makes us know that this is in the past tense, a past perfect, present perfect rather?
Because of the words have just swept.
Okay, so the have plus the past perfect make, or if it was, let's say, past, if we were talking about past perfect, it would be had. So in the past perfect, it changes to had. They had just swept, or they had swept the room. That is what would determine the past perfect. But in the present perfect, we have the have plus the past perfect of the verb sweep, which is swept. So that is the combination that we have under that. So here we have present perfect. The changes here we have, what are the changes? Remember, it must also remain the same in the passive voice. So which is our subject and which is our object? The object here is the room. The room has just been swept. So even here in the present, the has helps us in the passive voice, helps us to determine the tense, present, been swept. Helps us to know that it is in the present perfect. However, in the passive, we're interested in the subject. So the changes are there. They have just watched. In the second sentence, they have just watched you. You have been watched. So you have been. That also helps you to determine that something happened. Even in the second sentence, so you realize that been is dominant here. The have and the has shows singular and plural, but also helps you to know that it's in the present. So these are the simple changes that we need to master with time. What makes a sentence present perfect, and what does it look like in the active voice? Here, when they say they have just swept the room, we are interested in the active voice. We said we are interested in the doer, which is the subject. They have just swept the room. In the passive, we are now interested in the object that received the action. Now, which is the room. The room has just been swept. Please note those small changes. The determiner of the tense is not the verb in the passive voice, but it is the verb to be, which is has, is, are, have. Those are the ones that help to determine. They have painted the room has been painted. And then we look at the last one, which is the future tense. Future tense, active voice. What makes us know that we have a future tense in this sentence? What makes it future tense? Who can be able to share with us? Who can be able to share with us? Eunice?
Teacher, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
In future tense, because it's like something which will be happened tomorrow.
Something that will happen tomorrow.
As
How do you know
are,
that it will happen tomorrow? Which word is that shows you
that they will sweep the room tomorrow?
So which is that exact word? Which are
Will
the two words that help? Okay. Will If it was not will, what is the other one? The determiners of future tense
will be swept.
If it was not will, it would be?
Will be.
There are two things, will or shall. We shall come tomorrow. We will come tomorrow. Those two help to determine the future tense. Now I want the person who can determine for us. Oh yeah, that is okay. So we'll sweep the room tomorrow. This shows that the action will happen tomorrow or the next day. Are we together? So definitely that's what we are saying here. Now the person who was saying direct and indirect speech, the explanation that person had given, it would cause changes here, which is wrong. So we shall take this one, that here we are only interested in the doer. I mean in the active, the doer, then in the passive, the object. So let's not confuse direct speech and indirect speech, because if we had brought in the explanation of direct speech here and the future tense, so many things would change. For example, tomorrow would become the next day, which we don't want to cause that commotion. So there's a difference between direct speech, direct, indirect speech, and passive and active voice. So let us know that difference. Back here, they will sweep the room tomorrow. That is in the active voice. In the passive voice, the room will be swept tomorrow. So these are the changes now we notice here. Still, even in the future tense, the verb here changes. The sweep changes to the past participle, which is swept. So let us be very, very keen when we are noting the changes there. The next statement is they will steal all your money. All your money will be stolen. So that's what determines still the future tense, even in the passive voice, will be. Definitely, that's what determines the fact that it's what puts it under future tense, will be stolen. They will leave some of the books in the library. That is in the active voice. In the passive voice, some of the books will be left in the library. So the tenses there keep changing. I mean, the verb changes completely to past participle in those two. I don't know, does that make sense? Those who are putting up their hands, do you want to ask a question? If you don't want to ask a question, please lower your hand, because I want to make a general statement, then I allow you to ask questions. Okay, last statement here in general, sorry. Yeah, something important to note. The past participle is always used in every tense of the passive voice. That's why we saw the verbs like swept, painted, watched. All those are in the past participle. It does not matter which tense. So through all the tenses, that one, the past participle is used for the verb. Therefore, that's what I've been emphasizing. Eunice, can you mute? There's a lot of unfavorable feedback, and I'm trying to mute you. Eunice, mute yourself. The past participle is always used in every tense of the passive voice. For example, this is what I was saying. This one, stolen, swept, left. The other one, we have again swept, watched, painted, all these in the passive voice. So that's why we are now concluding that the past participle is always used in every tense of the passive voice. See the verbs, that is under the verbs. All of them change to the past participle. We should never use it to determine the tense of the sentence. What I mean is this. If we simply looked at, for example, we have here present perfect. Or let me look for something simple. Let me go to present simple. If you look at this statement, the room is swept every day. We have changed it from they sweep the room every day. This statement is in the present simple tense. Both statements are in present simple tense. But if you chose to use swept to determine the tense in this passive voice, then you would be wrong. But instead, what determines the tense is the verb to be, which is. So let us not confuse them. I don't know if that makes sense. We do not use the tense to determine, we do not use the verb to determine the tense in the passive voice. Instead, we use the verb to be, which is, was, where. Those ones are the ones we use to determine. And then lastly, the passive always starts or begins with the verb to be. This is what I mean. That's why it is even the determiner of the tense. The room was. So was is actually what starts the passive voice. So when you're to determine the passive voice, it starts with the verb to be, was, were, was being. In all the tenses, the room was swept, where all of them under present simple. Even if you look at present simple, the room is, that is the verb to be, is a helping verb to be. The room is swept every day. So for it to begin after the subject, or rather after the object, the verb to be follows instantly. They have, she is, they are, meals are, they were. The were is the verb to be. So it is what marks the beginning of the passive voice after mentioning the object. That's what I wanted us to know today. So I gave us a simple exercise here. Maybe let me take a few hands. If you have questions, Abigail, Days, if you have a question.
Yes, I have a question.
Please.
So it's something I didn't really get in this subject and object thing. So if they give us, they have just swept the room. Is it they, which is the subject, or
Are you seeing my screen now?
Yeah.
Are you seeing mother? My mother. Have you seen this S, the one in red?
Subject.
Yes, and then?
That's the object. I got that part.
Yes. So your question is?
But what's confusing is the one in the present perfect.
Present?
Present perfect.
Okay, let me go there so that you're able to. Present continuous. This one?
Yes. So that was number one, that they have just swept the room.
Yes.
And then I don't know if I heard well, but in your explanation, I got a little bit confused between they.
They determine and have.
So what's the object? The object is the room.
Yes, the object is the room.
So swept is the action.
Now they remains the subject. Are we together? The doer of the action. Now, the perfectness is the have. Are we together?
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay,
and this shows and that shows the present perfect. The have plus the past participle of the verb, which is swept. That's why even here without just in the third sentence, they have painted the room. The have is always a constant in the present perfect tense. It is the grammatical rule that you have plus the past participle of the verb. If it was past perfect, it would be had plus the past perfect of the verb, which would be still painted. They had painted the room. That would be the past perfect. So had for the present, have for the present, and had for the past.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Next question, very fast. Fatuma Auma. Oh, we have eaten into time. Auma, last question. Okay, it seems Auma is off. Miss Ghana.
Teacher,
Yes.
I had a question in this present perfect.
Yes.
I was wondering, number 2. I was wondering in passive voice, why just is missed?
Oh, sorry, it was a typing error. It's okay, you can include it. You have just been watched. It's okay, does not change.
Okay.
Yes. All right. Okay, so I tried to give sample work for us to do. And I have already uploaded this work. What I will do, maybe I will extract only the exercise and I put in the activity part, or make it an assignment or something. Otherwise, thank you so much for listening. I am always happy to share with you people.